The moment I say, this is what I'm doing, then everything is going to change.
It blew my mind, and I can't spoil it. I don't want to spoil it because it's nuts. But fans, I think fans will be angry.
Not something, if you asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have told you that that's where I would be today.
So I wanted to start by congratulating you on season 3, because I've seen the first 4 episodes and it's phenomenal. It's my favorite season yet so far.
You know, that I don't know. It's a weird thing, because you watch, you know, you sort of keep half an eye on the media, and on the one hand, I'm hearing people going, "Oh yeah, season 3. What do you know? I hear you guys are having terrible problems," and it's like, nope, actually, it's all going really well, and we're making. It's fabulous. And they're like, "Oh, but isn't there all this stuff?" And it's like, no, it's really going well, and it's really good. And I just got to the point now of just starting to use the phrase, "Look, the proof is in the pudding. Just watch it. If you think this really is the best one yet, it's such a roller coaster. You watch episode 1 and you want to watch the next 10. And that was what we wanted to have happen on the whole thing. Now you care about Ricky. You know, Ian McShane is the best Wednesday. It's all come together. And it feels like it's come together in a kind of building way. It's taken the things that really did work in season 1, and it's taken the things that worked in season 2, and it's now building on all of that and making it really just sort of come together.
I appreciate it. It's a massive return to form for season 3. It's incredible. You know, I believe it's down to the amount of time that Chick Egley and Neil Gaiman had in pre-season, you know, in the hiatus. They got together in the summer in Austin and were able to really talk it out. And I feel it's that time that really lent to the show, because they were able to kind of plan out this epic season 3 into season 4. So I already know what's going on in the future, which is unusual in TV to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You're normally filming something, and then someone goes, "Oh, by the way, that's your sister," and you're like, "Wait, what?" So, you know, it's fantastic. Season 1 was this beautiful anthology from Brian Fuller and Michael Green. Season 2 was like an eccentric treasure hunt where you kind of went everywhere. It was a bit messy, but like you had gold here and you found some magic over there. Season 3 is this planned, thrilling roller coaster ride where every dip and spin is just planned, and it really takes the audience on a planned journey where all our characters now, because we've had this time to invest, are able to take their own arcs through this journey. And we all know where we're going. We know our destination now, which is what Neil and Chick were able to give to us. But now we're able to kind of really enjoy those kind of arcs and those pathways towards that crazy destination at the end of this book.
That's awesome. That's just answered my first question I was about to ask you, so that was perfect.
See you next year.
You're ahead of the game. So for my next question, I would love to know, obviously, so much has changed for Shadow across these 3 seasons. So I would just love to know a bit more about your character's evolution from beginning to where he is now.
I mean, it's a book. It's an incredible book from Neil Gaiman, written in 2001. If you haven't read it, you've got to go and read it. He's fantastic. It's so complex and beautiful, but it's all from the mind of Shadow Moon. So what we do in this show is we're able to kind of expand upon the other characters, because unless they came into Shadow's vision, you never really saw them. So it's a lot more fun. There's a lot more pressure on Shadow to kind of frame these beautiful gods all around him and introduce them all and allow the audience to feel something through Shadow. Shadow's the audience. We're looking through his eyes. And so that was a lot of pressure as an actor. But knowing the book, I know where he's going to be. And so I had to kind of break him down to start from scratch. So when we first meet Shadow, he's a broken shell of a man who's just lost his wife, his best friend, and he has nothing else in the world. In season 2, we learn in flashbacks that he lost his mother when he was 15 to cancer, and he never knew his father. And so he literally has had nothing his whole life. Season 1, he was kind of just wandering around lonely until Wednesday kind of picked him up and hired him. Then season 2, he started to build a frustration and a kind of an anger because no one was answering his questions. He's just found out there's gods in the world, leprechauns, dead wives. And he wants answers like any human would, which is, again, my job as the protagonist to guide the audience. Season 3, I'm able to add even more now. So season 1, he was void of charisma and personality. season 3, we actually see Shadow smile. You know, I get to add some comedy, which is fun.
Nice.
It has my favorite episode of the whole show, which is very Ocean's 11, where we see a very different side of Shadow, where he's just having fun. Because on his travels around America, he was a bit of a con man. And so here we kind of have him in his prime, having a lot of fun with a lot of different characters. And it was just fun to play. It's kind of nice to see Shadow kind of let loose again. And I think Neil puts it a little bit of Ricky in Shadow, because I'm a bit of a British goofball. And it was nice to kind of throw some fun in there and a little bit of Ricky into Shadow's kind of stoicism.
Great question. So I would say with the first season, we saw Bilquis really just trying to survive. The second season, she starts to kind of thrive. And by this season now, we see her finally find her drive. This season, we see Bilquis go on this journey of self-discovery, much like all of the other characters. We see Salim do that. We see Technical Boy. We see Shadow Moon go on these journeys. And as they figure out more about themselves and they evolve themselves, they evolve in the whole.
Different and better for you. Obviously, you mentioned the building aspect, but I'd love to know how else the show has evolved in your eyes.
I think season 1 was finding a voice for a start. And season 1, I felt like there was a lot of stuff we got very right straight out of the game. We had a fabulous, fabulous cast. So we did that one right. And we had a look, you know, this sort of hyper real yet somewhat fantastical look, which David Slade brought to the pilot. Really, you know, you had that was there. But I felt like it tended to be a little bit like an anthology series. It was, you know, okay, now they've gone to the town with the guns and stuff like that. It's like, well, yes, it felt kind of bitty. Now here's the Easter episode. Now here's the season 2. I think was, again, there were things that really started working, bringing Bilquis onto the stage more and having her in it as a kind of a person who was one of the old gods, yet who understood the advantages of the new gods and the new technology. And it made everything much less black and white. It made it much less the old gods are the good guys, the new gods are the bad guys, which it never was and was never meant to be. And I loved that. What I feel like is that in season 3, we get to build on all those. So you've still got the fabulous look. You've still got the fabulous cast. It's no longer feels like each episode is as distinct. It's a roller coaster ride, and the roller coaster ride starts at episode 1 and they strap you in, you're on the ride. And that that feels right. That feels like what American Gods should be. Ricky Whittle is an actor of so much soul and charm and warmth and sensitivity. And I never felt that we were seeing that in previous seasons. And partly we were never seeing that because Shadow Moon has been hurt. And he comes into the story in a state of shock and repressing everything and just trying to cope. And then he gets beaten up a lot and says, "What?" And I don't understand what's going on a lot. What is lovely is by this point in the story, he does understand what's going on. And he is becoming somebody else. He's hiding under an assumed name that's also kind of an assumed identity. And he's letting that charm happen. And it feels like one of the things that we've got in season 3 that we never had before is we have our leading man. And he's the same leading man we've always had, but now he is our leading man. And you care about him, you understand him. And because in the book, you're seeing all the lakeside stuff from inside Shadow's head. On the TV show, we're outside of his head, and we are actually starting to understand why these people like him, why they fall for him, why they care for him. So I think watching Shadow is huge. Watching the Ian McShane as Wednesday really comes into his own, I think, in season 3 as well. Not just, I mean, he really is phenomenal. He's this sort of roguish bastard where you just want to spend time in his company.
Yeah.
You just want to be with him, and you don't trust him, but then again, you will always give him another chance.
Yeah, that's difficult, I think, to convey, but he does such a great job of that.
He really does. And in Ian, I mean, you know, again, as a person, he is one of the finest raconteurs I've ever spent time with. I remember flying from New York to LA with him, from press junket to premiere, and sitting next to him on the plane and realizing that, oh my God, Ian was one of the young men in the very first ever production of Joe Orton's Loot, starring Kenneth Williams as Inspector Truscott. And he was telling me all about that, and realizing that, you know, all of so many years of English dramatic history in that head, and so much craft and talent is there.
It's always a joy to be able to dive into Bilquis's life story, especially when we have eons of, of story to go into. So the deeper we can dive, the more enjoyable it is for me as an actor. And finding out these different facets of herself and these capabilities that she's forgotten, and seeing different sides to what the goddess of love can be. Yeah. That has all been an incredible gift. So I'm really, really looking forward to people being able to take that journey as well.
I'd love to know a bit more about what it's like to relate and connect to such a deity, such a unique, immortal character who still has these human moments, though. Yeah, I'd love to know a bit more about that.
Right. I mean, that's a wonderful thing about these gods that Neil has written, is that they're just a distillation of human thought and belief. And so you get to explore the really large feelings and, you know, the large expressions of being within these quote unquote gods. Yeah. So getting to play with it as an actor, you get to dive into these really large feelings, these beliefs, all of these kinds of ideas, hope, faith. Personally, for me, being an immigrant in the United States, Bilquis's story of coming from one place into a new space and trying to find relevancy in how she fits within this world, that resonates deep for me. So there's so many deeply human stories and feelings that she has allowed me to express. And I couldn't be more grateful for that.
I love that. I think Bilquis is she's such an empowering figure, because she's, like you say, she's been through all these experiences, and then also obviously very sex positive, being a god of love. So I'd love to know, how does it feel for you just to play an empowering figure that can have that impact on people?
I love that she empowers. And I mean, you know, maybe I'm biased, but I think that if she actually existed in the world, that would be her hope. What's incredible is that she empowers me. I've found that there has been this kind of, you know, there's been this symbiosis, and there are these moments in life that, you know, it's almost a what would Bilquis do? I was so happy to be a part of having a conversation about, sex empowerment, and sex positivity, because I think there's so much that goes on in the silence, in the darkness. That's where, things go through the cracks. But when we are able to own our own sexuality and actually have the conversations around it, I think that becomes something that's healthier for everybody involved, as opposed to, I always say that regression comes from repression.
Yeah.
And when you're actually able to face whatever it is, that's when growth and evolution can occur. So that has been something that I've been very proud to be a part of. And
Yeah.
it's not something, if you asked me 10 years ago, I wouldn't have told you that that's that's where I would be today.
So season 3, obviously things are moving forward. I'd love to know, there's a different showrunner this time around, so I'd just love to know what it's been like working with this kind of, not new team, but new kind of overseer, and how that's impacted the role.
To be honest, it was a new team. It really was. Chick Egley came in, and I spoke to him for so many times, and he did a beautiful thing. He had all this time with Neil Gaiman, and then the first thing he did was bring me into the writing room. Because he said, you're the lead of this show. You're the star. You're the protagonist. I want you to be involved because I need to hear your voice. I want to hear your voice. This is Shadow's journey. So he brought me in, and we kind of talked about everything. And when we talked about how important it was to have representation and have everyone be inclusive. Like the writing room really was kind of literally, I would say, around 10% cisgendered straight white male. The rest was LGBTQ, biracial, black, white, male, female, formerly incarcerated. He wanted as many voices as possible, so they were authentic. And you can't have diversity on camera truly without diversity behind the camera in that creative kind of period. And so that is mirrored on camera when we bring in incredible actresses like Dominique Jackson. We've got Leila Lauren, Danny Trejo, Graham Greene, Wale, Gladio Horizon, and then we've got Blythe Danner, Dennis O'Hare. I mean, it blows my mind who we have on this show. As a kid from England, I used to grow up watching these people, and I'm like, oh my God, Blythe Danner, she was in Meet the Fockers. That's like, what? Danny Trejo, wait, hold on a second. Leila Lauren, she's in Power. Like, I just love kind of getting to work with all these people. And that's down to Chick Egley wanting to have as many voices as possible. And that's what we're pushing this season. Also in the show, it's about the we having more power than the I. And that's what we kind of wanted to put in that writing room, is that it's not about one person's voice, it's about everyone's voice. And that's the struggle that Shadow's going to have to face this season as well. Is it's not about one person's voice. It's about the power of the we, and together we can build something great, as opposed to kind of just trying to hold that power by yourself. So it's kind of funny how what happened behind the camera really mirrored what happened on camera. And as the lead of this show, being in there for the writing room from the beginning, it was fascinating to watch that kind of progression and the education that Chick and that incredible writing room gave me. It was really fun to kind of see it build and put this kind of jigsaw together.
We have been genuinely fortunate with this show in that we've had the constant of Neil Gaiman. We've had the creator, as we call him, the God's father. And he is so wonderfully accessible, which is something, again, if you told me 10 years ago that I would be able to say, oh, hi, Neil, I have a question about this, I would have probably laughed you out the door. So we've had this gift continuously through. And as for changes, things that we see this season that I think people are going to be incredibly excited for, the agency that we see in Shadow, we see someone taking charge of his own future and making those decisions. What kind of, what kind of God would you want to be? We see Salim going on this beautiful journey with Laura Moon, and the combination of these characters is something near and dear to my heart. I just have the fuzzies whenever I think of those two. And then we're seeing all these iterations of world. We're seeing Dominique Jackson, we're seeing Danny Trejo. And something that was personally for me, as we talk about self-discovery, as we talk about going into our roots, as someone from Nigeria, the fact that we've introduced the Orishas, it was just a beautiful thing to behold. That we have Karen, we have Bridget, we have Horizon as Oshun, Aye, and Yamoja. We have Wale, you know. These are things that I think people across the diaspora are going to be very excited to see.
For me, it was the most efficient season yet as well. We finished, literally on time. We knew exactly, because it's all planned out. We knew our episodes. We knew where we were going. We knew what was happening. We got our episodes early, which is tough sometimes on TV productions, especially something as massive as American Gods. I mean, this thing is a monster. It's huge, but it was just real smooth, real easy this year. And we're all sat in quarantine, going, just want to start season 4. Let's get it done. We've not even seen season 3, but we've shot it. And for me, it really does culminate in the most epic season finale that is just going to leave fans wanting more, because we want more. When I read the season finale, I just text Chick and the writers, wow, it blew my mind. And I can't spoil it. I don't want to spoil it because it's nuts, but I think fans will be angry, because it's so great. And it's that cliche of, it's just going to leave them wanting more, because it's such an upsetting way to finish a story when you can't turn that page. Yeah. When you're just like, you get to the end of the book and you're like, oh, come on. It's Empire Strikes Back, where you're just like, you can't just, you're flipping tables. You're like, when is Return of the Jedi? When is it? It's that moment. It truly is written so well. It's a true return to form, and I'm so proud of this season. I feel that this is like the strongest season yet.
Bilquis has been, I mean, gift is the word of the year, and I continue to use it because she has been a gift. She has taught me so much. This was my first series regular.
Oh yeah.
I, was but a child in that sense coming into it. And so I will always have nothing but gratitude for this role. And I mean, I couldn't have asked for, and I'm going to use the word one more time, ask for a better gift.
The nice thing about having the next American Gods book plotted in my head for a very, very long time is that for each of the sets of showrunners, I've been able to sit them down and say, okay, this is what is happening in the next American Gods book, which means that this scene, which you might have been tempted to leave out, will become incredibly important later. So please make sure that you shoot it, because you are going to want to have that character knocking around, because trust me, that character is going to become huge. And so I've always had that going for me. I would love to have written another American Gods novel before we get that far. But one thing I've learned about 2020 is that whenever I plan anything, I can hear somewhere up in the sky, like the rumbling of thunder, gods laughing, and then something else happens. It doesn't matter what it is, the world changes it. I finally take a week to go down to London to visit the Sandman set. And as I arrive in London, it is announced that London is about to go into lockdown again. And Wednesday night, I'm on my way back to Scotland. And it happens with everything. So I would love to write another American Gods book. I've got several books that need to be finished first.
Yeah.
And also, you know, there's things that need to be done and things that need to be made. And all I know is that the moment I say, this is what I'm doing, then everything is going to change. So I'd rather not announce it, and I'd rather quietly do it at some point and then tell everybody it's happened.